I feel like I look extra glam today, and it's kind of bothering me a little that I'm so glam, but I'm rolling with it. It's fine. We're rolling with the punches today. Hello book reading friends, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. My name is Melanie, and today I have a book review for you guys. I know probably everyone has done a book review on this particular book. Everyone's been raving about this book, so it's no news that I'm gonna be talking about it as well. And I am talking about Scythe by Neal Shusterman. I recently finished this book, and I knew right after I finished it that a book review needed to be done. I also have an Amazon wish list now, which is crazy. So I will leave it linked down below in case you guys want to check out my Amazon wish list and for some reason in the world you feel generous enough to gift me a book. And also, if you're not subscribed, you can subscribe down below for more book content. I am constantly uploading book reviews, book recommendations. I also have a diversity series. Let's get right into it because there's so much to say. Scythe is part of a trilogy called The Arc of a Scythe, and this is a dystopian trilogy. It is set in a dystopian world where people can no longer die from natural cause. There is no hunger, there is no war. Basically, all the present issues that we have right now in the world are overcome in this space, and the only way that people can die is by the hands of a scythe. Scythes are people who train in order to glean others. Glean is the word that they use for killing, I guess you could say, and they are part of this big organization, so to say, called the Scythedom. The book starts off with Citra and Rowan, who are invited into the Scythe apprenticeship, and that is where the whole conflict of the book kicks off. And as you can see, I annotated the hell out of this book. I think out of all the books that I've annotated, this is probably the one with the most tabs. I went crazy with this book. As soon as I finished this book, I was just staring at that last page and I was laughing hysterically and I didn't know what to do with my life.
I can't stop thinking. O sea, I'm tweeting, I'm going nuts, I'm going crazy. Why did I think it was a good idea to not buy the rest of the books at the same time? I am now going to have to suffer for about a week. Hasta que me llegue los... Oh my God.
And then I jumped onto Amazon and ordered the last two books. Part of the reason why I loved this book was because I don't think I've ever read something quite like this, because there were times in this book where I had to tab it, close it, and just like let it rest for a few because it hits you really hard. And I think what genuinely shines the most with this book is the writing. I think the writing was a great conduct for this particular story. The pacing of this book was also really nice. It was broken into different parts, which I genuinely think it worked so well with the story because it let every single part shine and it made the pacing make sense and it didn't feel rushed in the slightest. As you start reading, it only gives you enough to keep reading. It's not dumping anything on you. It really just starts building as you go and it keeps you so intrigued. You want to keep turning those pages to see how it all wraps up. I also think that because this book was broken into different parts, that only added to the book being so easy to read. The writing was so easy to follow. It was really consistent. I have read so many books that they have a really exciting beginning, then they have a draggy middle, and then a really exciting end. This book is the complete opposite. I was just turning pages. And there were certain sections, specifically with the whole training aspect of the Scythedom, that were repetitive because they were doing the same thing over and over, but every single time it was different and every single time it had a different meaning and a different message. And I think that only added to that excitement and to that consistency with writing. And the book often makes you wonder, specifically with the scenes that we see the Scythedom as a whole community and we see the conclave and we see their meetings and we see how all of that plays out in the book. It makes you wonder if today, real life, we got to eradicate all those present issues that we have. Will they really be eradicated as humanity thinks and hopes it to be? Or will it just be more present than ever but hidden in plain sight? And the conflict in this book also works really well at making you question all these things. And again, I won't tell you what the conflict is because it is a spoiler. Once that conflict happens in the book, you really get to see all those themes that Neal Shusterman managed to weave into the story about corruption and about about, again, societal construct and whether the act of gleaning people, even if you train for it, is right or wrong. There's a lot of topics about morality as well in this book. I also loved that the stakes were super high for both of our main characters, both Scythe and Rowan, and in general for some of the side characters as well. The stakes were so high and it made for such a gripping story. One of the aspects of the book that I really enjoyed, and I found myself looking forward to those parts, were the journal entries. In this world, when you are training to be a scythe, and even once you are a fully fledged scythe, you need to keep a journal with you and you need to log into it every single day. And so in the book, we get different journal entries from different sites. I genuinely enjoyed those so much because it gives you a more insider's perspective into this world and how it works, because you are questioning the morale behind this whole act of the scythedom, whether it's good to glean or whether it's immoral. It gives you a more insider's look into these sites' brain and how they're processing the whole ordeal. And despite it having different journal entries from different sites, every single voice felt so unique and so distinctive. You could tell who was talking and who was writing those journal entries. I also liked that the possible romance in this book was not the centerpiece of the story. It was very present, but there were so many other things happening at the same time that were so stressful and so crazy that was really the main focus of the book. And I loved that everything else, the real conflict of the story, was taking that front seat. And then once we got a little bit of that possible romance, it just felt really rewarding and it felt really nice. As for the main characters, Scythe and Rowan, I absolutely loved them, and I think Shusterman did a great job at building that character arc all the way from the beginning to the end, where they're fully realized after being so timid and so reluctant to go into this apprenticeship. It is also so hard to choose a favorite character because Scythe and Rowan, I loved them so much. They are both such great main characters, but I also do have to say I absolutely loved Scythe Curie. She was just a highlight because of her journal entries. They were just so interesting and poetic at times, and it really made you question a lot of things. And I actually have some quotes written down. "We are not the same beings we once were. So then, if we are no longer human, what are we?" But when you have the context in which all of this is being said, it just hits you so much harder. There's also this one quote. This comes from Scythe. "There was a lesson to be learned in every gleaning, and today's was one she would not soon forget. The sanctity of the law and the wisdom to know when it must be broken." And now that I'm talking about quotes, the last one that I'm gonna mention, because there are a lot that I tabbed, but they're kind of spoilery, so I don't want to spoil you. Again, you need context for a lot of these. This one from Scythe Faraday. "A scythe is merely the instrument of death, but it's your hand that swings me. We are all accomplices. You must share the responsibility." That hit me so hard when I read it, and I just had to put the book down because it was just too crazy. And just with every single character in this book, I genuinely just loved how they were regular everyday people, because it literally, for the Scythedom apprenticeship, it could be anyone. Anyone could be chosen, so it's not like you were born for this. It's literally anyone. So I love that we get everyday people taking a stand in this huge ordeal, and they understand that change must be made and it may have to be done by them. So again, that whole aspect of you don't have to be extraordinary in order to make change. I love that. As for the themes addressed in this book, I will most likely mention these and possibly forget a lot of them, because the way that the story was constructed around these themes was really ingenious. Neal Shusterman manages to bring up conversation about race, as well as overpopulation and religion and corruption, and what it means in this particular book in regards to morale, to glean versus kill, because the line is very fine between the two. Glean, you do it maybe out of duty, and then killing, you mostly do out of your own free will because you enjoy it. There's this one scene in the book that brings up the aspect of racial composition and the genetic index. I think it's called in this book. I think I have it tabbed actually. So what they do in this world is that they have a genetic index, and they have the top 5 races, and you get get each percentage depending on the race. And you can imagine white Caucasian is the first percentage, followed by African, and then followed by, I think, yeah, Pan-Asian. And even the way that the genetic index is written in this book, it also brings up conversation of white Caucasian being first. There is also one journal entry in which they mention the overpopulation aspect, and it says, "I shudder to think how many more sites it would take and how many gleanings would be required if we ever need to curb population growth altogether." And again, the book was written in a very ingenious way where all of these present issues keep coming up, whether it's in conversation or in a scene or in a journal entry, that it makes you really question all those things of whether we really overcome it or we won't, and what will happen if we ever do. All in all, I think it is safe to say you would guess what my rating is for this book, because there was nothing negative in this review. I definitely gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars. It is my second 5-star book of the year, which I am really excited for, and hopefully by the end of the year I'll have a few more 5 stars, and I don't think I could have given this book anything lower than that. If you're a fan of dystopian or like very thrilling books, then you should definitely pick this one up. If you haven't read it, please do. I recommend it with my whole entire being. I cannot stop raving about it. It is definitely a book that you should pick up because I think it does bring up a lot of interesting questions and conversation. And those are all my thoughts on Scythe by Neal Shusterman. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. You can also subscribe down below and join the fam for more book content. Like I told you guys before, we are doing all the most with the content over here, and I have a few exciting projects and surprises coming your way very, very soon, so you definitely do not want to miss that. You can also follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Goodreads. Also, comment down below, what books do you want me to read next? Are there any book recommendations that you guys have? Have you read Scythe by Neal Shusterman? What did you think of it? Let me know all those thoughts down below. I love you guys, and I will see you on my next video. Bye guys.